How's everybody doing? Welcome back to the Hot Rod Workshop. It has been extremely hot these past few weeks here on the East Coast. Consecutive 95, 98 degree days, but we've been able to make quite a lot of progress on the roadster pickup. Last we spoke about the roadster pickup, we were talking about finish welding everything and putting in the proper gussets and fish plates and everything, but we rounded some corners and we figured it would be best suited to get the chassis ready for paint. Once everything was finished welded and cleaned up, we made ourselves a little makeshift paint booth inside the shop. I was originally planning on using the tent outside, but it was just a little too cramped. Inside the shop was also cramped, but not as bad, plus the lighting was better. We decided on using the Tamco HP 661 direct to anything epoxy primer. That laid on very, very well with very little runs. After some scuffing up and cleanup, we followed that up with some Tamco AG 900 high gloss jet black urethane. The ridiculous humidity played a role, unfortunately. I had 2 occasions of water spraying out the paint gun, so I had to take some time to drain the tank and refill it up, give it some time. And if we had the proper dryers, this wouldn't have been a problem, but we deal with what we got. And to be honest, the chassis turned out way better than I was expecting. I got my work cut out for me to make the rest of the car look this good. But for today, we're gonna focus on getting the pedals rebushed, painted, and reinstalled. All right, pretty happy with the way that the frame turned out in gloss black. Like I said, I hope the rest of the truck looks this good. We were able to get the pedals and the master cylinder set up, and I set up the steering column there just for reference to make sure everything was lining up correctly. So the next step from here to take advantage of the accessibility I have is to set up the brakes. I picked up some Nycop 3/16 brake line, all the hoses and residual pressure valves, fittings and whatnot to get going on that. Now with the brake lines pretty much out of the way, I think we're at a good stopping point. The Nycop lines are really nice to work with. They're pretty easy to bend and flex around. The only caveat being you got to be a little careful with using your flaring tools. Because they're so delicate, you do run the risk of, distorting the flare a little bit if you're not careful. We have the proper 10 psi residual pressure valves front and rear, and also an inline brake light switch. So the next hurdle to overcome is to figure out a way to set up this chassis on 4 jack stands and get the drums off so we can get them cut and cleaned up, and eventually get to the backing plates, clean those up and rebuild them. The trouble I'm gonna have is setting it up on 4 jack stands, having accessibility to work on the brakes, but also be able to fit the coupe back in here and all the other parts. So it's gonna get a little tight in here again, but nothing we're not used to. And while we're finishing up the brakes, I'd like to go ahead and finish up what needs to be done on this trans. The motor's pretty much ready to go. The slider gear between first and reverse has a missing tooth. So we've got to replace that gear, do a mild rebuild, paint it, figure out the clutch situation, and then we can reinstall. So we're still plugging away. I really do love this stage of a project, especially when the motor gets installed and it's just pretty much like a running chassis, but I am looking forward to seeing the body and the bed back in place. But until next time, thanks for watching.